Welcome to the Transmission Coaching Podcast, powered by ATRA. Today's podcast is sponsored by Gears Magazine, your magazine for the automatic transmission rebuilding industry. Be sure to get into Gears. Get your free subscription at gearsmagazine.com. Click on subscribe. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the Coaching Podcast. And now here's your host, Coach Lance Wiggins.
Welcome to the ATRA Transmission Coaching Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Wiggins, and today with me is ATRA Technical Advisor Jimmy Taylor. And today we're going to talk about reprogramming. It's a great day to fix transmissions, so let's get started. All right, Jimmy, before we get started with the podcast, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and how you came into play here at ATRA?
All right. I started at age 13 when I was summoned to my dad's shop, and it was time to go to work. I started with the tear down, R&R and so forth, and then by 14, I was building transmissions. I've been doing that for so many years I've forgotten now, but about 48 years.
Wow.
Somewhere around that. Well, not quite 48, I guess, but it's close. I came to ATRA because it was time for a change, and I've always liked the challenge of learning how things work and how to fix them. And this was a good place to help others do the same thing. Be able to find the problem and a solution for that problem.
That's a huge attribute. Servants, right? I say this a lot too. I feel like we're servants of the industry, and it feels good to be able to help a fellow technician work through a problem and get it fixed. It's almost surreal in some way, shape, or form. Well, I will tell you this: we love having you here, obviously, and if you've been reading Gears Magazine, Jimmy's been writing in Gears Magazine for just about a year now, I think, right? Maybe a year and a half.
Year and a half, I think.
Yeah, just about a year and a half. So today we're going to talk about, we're going to be in the August issue of Gears. So if you have your August issue of Gears, if you read the reprogramming, we're going to dive into a little bit more information regarding the programming. Article you wrote in August 2023 issue of Gears Magazine. Make sure you get into Gears at gearsmagazine.com. So programming in general that's a touchy situation. I mean, you get it right and you're right, but you get it wrong, it costs you a ton of money. One of the things you mentioned right at the beginning of your article, changes in OEM software, OEM purchasing options and procedures, and hardware requirements have occurred over the last couple of years. Can you elaborate a little bit on that and what our technicians should be looking forward to in essence into the future?
Sure. The main thing is to get the most current information available for what the manufacturers are requiring of hardware. And the reason being is when I first started programming, you could essentially run it on a potato. I started on an 8-year-old computer. It was more than capable, met the demands. But since that time, changes in operating systems and hardware requirements, speed of the computer, memory storage, or memory mount and storage have all increased. So that factors in a lot with, what system do I need to start as far as a PC goes? And speaking of PC, it has to be a Windows-based computer because all the manufacturers are only supporting Windows, and it has to be Windows 10. They have not certified any Windows 11 machines yet.
So once again, Bill Gates gets his hand into the cookie jar here, huh?
Well, that's the way the industry goes. Yeah.
Right. So I've been asked this before, You get a phone call, and as the technical director, we're executive now, but in general, working for ATRA, we're professionals. We're known for having the right answers. I've had phone calls from shops saying, I'm, I'm thinking about investing some money into scan tools.
Mhm.
Which one do you recommend? And I'm like, oh geez, well, let me see here. Are you import, mainly? Are you domestic mainly? I mean, do you want to get specific? I mean, you could spend $100,000 if you'd like and have every scan tool that you need. But the reality is even in programming, there's cost. So you mentioned something here in the article regarding it was like the starting point. How much does it cost? What do you need to know? And then what happens when it goes wrong? You broke it down into two different groups: hardware and software. Can we talk a little bit about that and what our listeners and our technicians should expect here?
Sure. In the article, I have it broke down on hardware from each of the major manufacturers and what their requirements are. And GM has the highest standards uh, for CPU speed, memory, and storage. And essentially, if you turn this to where GM is at the top of this list, and then go to the next one, which I believe is Ford, and then maybe Mercedes. But as you trickle down, you can pick your market that you're working on. So if you don't work on GM, you don't need to have that level of computer. You can opt for something, lower. Say
So
you're an import shop.
yeah, let's take a look at that chart that's on I think it's on page let's see. I think it was on
13.
page 13 or page 14.
Oh,
Might have been page 14.
14. I'm sorry.
Might have been page 14. Let's take a look at that chart real quick. And this is the chart you're referring to, right?
Correct.
And what are we looking at here? Minimum CPU? What is
Okay, so the minimum and recommended are how fast the computer runs. All computers are measured by gigahertz. There's a few in AMD CPUs, but the vast majority are going to be Intel based. And then we'll see there's two core, four core, or eight. Um, some manufacturers, single core is fine. You won't find too many single core computers these days. But the let's say the oldest computer that you could probably safely run and expect to have updates and everything would be a seventh gen Intel, Intel based. Um, it gets into the real technical side. So when you're looking at computers, you really want to know somebody that, talk to somebody that can explain, which generation CPU you have. And that will pretty much set your, list of options there. Operating system, Windows 10, Windows 10 Professional. Those are the most common. And you see, there's only Chrysler has some Windows 11 support. If you get a Windows 11 computer, you may not find that some of the other brands of manufacturer software, it may not run, or if it has problems, you can't really call them and expect them to help you. They'll tell you the first thing to do is put Windows 10 on there and try it again. So you really want to start off with the machine that'll work on that. Then as we move over to our RAM column, as I said, some of them don't require a great deal. GM is requiring 16 gigabytes.
wow.
So they're at the top of the list.
Wow.
16 gigabytes in today's market is not uncommon. That is a fairly healthy amount, but it's fairly common as well. And again, over to the storage side, you're looking at 500 gigabytes of hard drive space. That might be a little tough because a lot of the computers that are coming out tend to have about half as much, but you can order with the one with an upgrade, or even find some with even greater. I got it to 1 terabyte in my notebook. So that will be your first, cost point, is to find what computer you want to run on. It does not have to be new, but it needs to be fairly recent. I'd say that's no more than 3 years old.
Would you recommend, as far as storage is concerned, would you recommend getting a separate hard drive that they can dump all this information into and hold it? And the next question is, if you do that, if you save a specific vehicle, can you use that program on another vehicle that's similar?
Not anymore. We used to be able to do that. The older Chrysler files, if you got it for 2008 Caravan with a 3.6 or 3 liter, whatever, you can use that number on anything. You use that file on anything. These days, manufacturers are locking it down by VIN number. So if you start up the program, you have to enter a VIN. You're buying that subscription based on VIN, and it will not allow you to
this is
use it on something else.
This is the mating the engine and the transmission together as one, using the solenoids as the ID codes, et cetera, right?
Right.
I mean, this isn't the 4R70W that you used to have back in the 90s. This is high tech, different, right? So
right. Everything's becoming more specialized.
What are some of the typical costs? I mean, I don't know if I saw it in the article, but what are some of the costs of this? Like, do you have to purchase a subscription to General Motors and then purchase the download? Is that how that works?
For General Motors, as an example, you are buying access for that one vehicle VIN number for 2 years at a cost of $40.
Oh, that's nothing.
No, it's not, and allows you to come back on that vehicle within that 2-year period and program any module on there. So if most TSBs will tell you to reprogram the computer first before replacing anything. So if you do that and it didn't work and you have to change a module, well, you've already purchased the program for it. You can then go back in and
so you stop,
program it. It will cost you nothing additional. Other manufacturers such as Ford will give you a time limit. So you have, let's see, I believe it is 3 days on their minimum subscription, but there's no limit on the amount of vehicles you can program at once, or not at once, but at that
right
subscription time.
Right. That's good to know. So now that we've talked a little bit about PCs and gotten that out of the way, one other question on the PCs. So, I mean, look, we're in 2023, getting ready to go to 2024. Windows has jumped, different operating systems, whether it's Windows 10, Windows 11, Windows XP, Windows. I mean, what is Windows 10 or Windows 10 Professional? Is that like the go-to right now? Is that the norm, or
in the business world? It is.
Okay, cool.
And our world is the business world.
Good. So technicians or owners going out there purchasing a laptop, I'm assuming, are gonna can take this this chart here that you have and say, I need a I'm going to use Honda as an example. I need an Intel i3 57 7th gen or newer. It has to have Windows 10 Professional. I need 16 gigs RAM or higher, and I need 500 gigs minimum of storage. And so they can go get their computer, their Dell, their Intel, whatever they want, and make sure they have this on it. And if it does have it, then they're good to go. This is what a great tool, Jimmy. Thank you for putting that out there to the technicians. I'm sure that they'll they'll utilize that. So now we've talked about PCs a little bit.
Mhm.
I want to talk about the interface. You mentioned the interfaces on let's see, I think it's on um,
16.
page 16. You talk about interfaces, you talk about the J2534 tool. And for those listeners that don't know what the J2534 is, can you explain to them what that is and what it does and why you need it?
All right. So the J tools are I had it here and I forgot what the name of it, but it's a standard put out by the
SAE?
SAE, yeah, Society of Automotive Engineers.
Yep.
And essentially, it is a design or requirements that a tool has to have in order to be considered a 2534 tool. 2534 allows a two-way transfer of information, so from the computer to the vehicle, vehicle to the computer, and allow updating the computer by erasing and reloading programs, the operating system, essentially, onto the vehicle computer. This is a standard interface, and because of laws in the U.S. and many other countries, this tool has to function with any vehicle that complies under those OBD2 laws.
So I think we'll probably get into this here in just a second.
Mm-hmm.
Is this J2534, you have to have it on every reprogram?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's take a look at, you have a figure here. I want to look at figure 2 of your article there. Can you see that okay?
Yep.
Yeah. So you have the table here. Figure 2 shows the tools with the highest number of OEM validations. And so I want to kind of get into what validations mean. DrewTech Cardac Plus, followed by Bosch's MasterTech VCI. Then you also mentioned our friends at Snap-on with the Pass-Through Pro 4. But it only has 2 OEMs validated. I noticed that. But then you mentioned in the article, but it's a DrewTech Cardac Plus in a Snap-on red case. So what does that mean? First of all, what's the validations and what does that entail? And then secondly,
validation is when the OEM gets a tool, any one of these tools here, and they use that tool to see if they can program their vehicles using this tool and the OEM software. If they do not run into any problems, then they get a certification. They validate it.
got
A lack of validation in this case may simply become because the tool manufacturer never sent a sample to the OEM to be tested. And so, by J2534 compliance, they're all supposed to work. But there are some cases, some manufacturers that, may not want to quite talk so well.
fair enough. And so price wise, purchasing a DrewTech Cardac Plus or purchasing the red Snap-on or the Snap-on Pass-Through, is there a difference in price between those two tools? And if they're the same tool, do they work on the same thing that Cardax has? But I mean, it looks like there's only 2 OEMs for the Pass-Through. But if it's the same as the Cardax Plus, does the Cardax Plus work on multiple vehicles?
It does, but so does, in my experience, so does the Pass-Through 4.
Okay.
That was the tool I used. I never had an issue with the tool failing to communicate with the computer or to a vehicle or perform the function of updating. So yeah, the cost wise, I believe they're both about the same. For us, we had a great Snap-on dealer who, if we ever had any technical problems with any of our tools like that, he would immediately call Snap-on technical support I mean, literally right in the shop with us.
Oh,
And
wow.
need to get us answers. So, I mean, you can't beat the service of that.
So that is absolutely going to bring me to my next question. And this goes along the lines of I've personally done this before, so I know what the failure is when it happens. But towards the end of your article, you mentioned a very heated warning, and so anybody that's doing programming, this is you need to be very conscientious about this, because um, it's a simple warning, but it's the most important, I think, in reprogramming, reflashing automotive computers. There is no standard time for what it takes. Whether you're hardwired, which we in the past have always recommended, or your airware, right? So you're wireless. Most updates can take up 5 to 10 minutes, and that's okay. But um, what happens if it takes longer? What happens if the battery starts to die? What is the battery minimum? You realize the key's got to be on,
right?
In certain cases. What are some of the warnings that are there? I think we just kind of talked about, but how can they eliminate these problems?
All right. So with the extended program time on some of these vehicles, I've ran into some on Chryslers that have taken very long. You run the risk of running the battery at low on voltage. In the past, if that happened, you would get you would learn the term brick, because you turn the computer into a brick.
That's right.
Could not be brought back to life.
Yep.
Had to be replaced. Some programming safeguards have come about, to where if the battery voltage went low, the computer would just shut down automatically and save itself. And I've run into that personally. Surprise. But to prevent getting in this situation, you need to have an auxiliary power source. Now, it can come in two forms that are most common. Looks like a battery charger, but it's not. It is a programming or reprogramming power source. And what this device does will put a 14.4 volt charge into the battery or into the vehicle and maintain that. It is a battery maintainer. They're made specifically for flash programming.
Do you have a name of that company by chance, or can somebody just look it up on Google and search it?
Yeah, so they go by two different names. One is battery maintainer. The other one is a flashing power supply. Okay. Snap-on has one. It's spendy, but it will do the job. And
yeah, I was going to say you spend your money one time, and it's worth 1,000. You're fine. You lose your money one time, and you wish you had it. Right? Isn't that how that works?
Right. And there are some marine battery maintainers that will also work. Yeah. They are certified as well. Another cheaper alternative, the little battery boost box.
Yeah.
Sometimes once you get used to programming, you'll find that, okay, this is going to be a 20-minute program, and you don't want to run the risk of the battery. That battery boost box will be just enough time. It'll get you over that 20-minute limit with some room to spare. And it's fairly easy. Everybody's got one these days. And that's all you need, just maintain that battery level above, I think it's 12.2 volts, but ideally we want more. We want to have 14 volts, with the maintainer. That's the advantage they have.
Would you recommend, let's say they don't have any one of those, hooking up another battery to it? Battery to battery?
Would work. Yep, the battery would work. Yep. What will not work is a battery charger, the old style.
Yeah, because they constantly click in, click out, unless you had it on full go, and then it might be a little too much, maybe cooking your battery.
And well, it's not only that, but they introduce a little bit of AC ripple, And we see what that does with our converter clutches on Dodges.
Right.
Exactly, same thing with a computer. It may think it's programming, and it actually doesn't. And you're just kind of stuck there until you correct that power source.
Excellent. I think that's going to just about do it here. Is there any other factors that you think might come into play for guys wanting to do? Listen, what's your advice for people that are getting into reprogramming if this is their first time they're getting into it? What's the best advice you can give them?
Okay. If we're just starting off, we need a good solid computer. Don't, like I said, anything that's 3 years or newer is going to be fine. Your programming tool, the Snap-on one, the Drew Kardec is good. The Bosch, what was the name of that? Master Tech? Master Tech. That one also is very good. That's actually an OEM tool for many manufacturers.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You're going to, I think they're somewhere around $2,000 for each of these tools. Then the subscription. Now, a lot of these are really difficult to get into as far as subscription goes. They're not difficult, but you jump through a lot of hoops to get where you want to. Chrysler makes you buy 3 subscriptions basically to get theirs. GM makes it the easiest. GM and Ford actually pretty easy, but GM, the way their website is set up, it's fairly easy to get in there and get started on that. And $40, it's an easy learner to do.
Yeah.
To learn on that. So that makes it quick and easy.
And you can make some money at it, right?
Exactly.
I mean, and a lot of times, and I think, both of us have probably over our years of doing this has found that a lot of the problems that we currently have can be fixed by reprogramming. It might even not even have anything to do with the transmission. It might be a fuel related issue that's causing it, and we can go in there and fix it. So,
absolutely.
So there's a lot of money to be made out there. Well, thank you, Jimmy. Thank you for joining us here at the ATRA Transmission Coaching Podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe. And until next time, it's a great day to fix transmissions. So let's keep fixing transmissions together. Thank you.
Thank you.